Hello and welcome to the Marketing Dribble podcast with myself, Rob Boyle, and my co-host, Johnny Kenyon. Hiya, Johnny. How are you?
Yeah, not too bad. Thanks, Rob. How are you getting on?
Getting on well, thank you. Dabbling in the world of AI as usual, but trying videos created from AI prompts, which is quite interesting.
Yeah. Send me them. Don't talk about them now because why can't we talk about them now, Rob?
Because we have a guest on the show, and who is the guest, Johnny?
Today we've got Tim Butler come on the show. Tim, welcome to the show.
Yeah, thank you for having me on.
I'll do you a bit of an introduction that I've scraped off the internet, and then I'll let you add any bits that I've missed.
Okay.
So here we go. Tim Butler is a seasoned marketing professional, more than 2 decades of experience in sales, marketing and consulting. He's a founder and CEO of Innovation Visual, a highly regarded UK digital marketing agency that works with clients across various sectors, including technology, direct-to-consumer, manufacturing, healthcare, finance, professional services, since its inception in 2014. His proficiency in digital marketing has earned him recognition from Google, who placed Innovation Digital in one of the top 30 digital agencies in the UK, which is pretty cool. Anything I missed there, Tim?
No, that's a pretty good rundown. It's Innovation Visual rather than Innovation Digital, but that's okay. It's okay. It happens.
But written as visual. I don't know why I even read digital.
We wouldn't want the Scottish company that's called Innovation Digital to get upset, but the history of the limited company actually relates to more visual creation, but we don't need to go into that today.
No good, yeah. It's weird. I've written it as visual. I don't know where that came from, so apologies.
Oh well.
But there you go. So yeah, welcome to the show. Apologies for that, and I'll let Rob take over. Rob, you just need to steer us back on track, mate.
Yeah. So, I mean, John, given a quick intro there about yourself. I don't know if you would like to sort of expand on that and talk more about yourself.
Yeah, I suppose the background from a digital marketing viewpoint, it goes all the way back for me, back to 98, when actually I started an online business with a friend. You know, that's the first .com bubble that we had. You know, that's web 1.0 before we got onto 2 and 3 and beyond kind of thing. But I suppose really my background is about solving problems, and Innovation Visual comes out of that concept of digital marketing is a problem-solving endeavor in terms of people want to get more revenue, whether that's an e-commerce company or a B2B company. How do they do that? What are the channels? What are the things that they do? I love the problem-solving aspect of doing that, and I think that's why I ended up where I am today.
Gosh. So can I just ask, what was the first business in 98 that you set up? Are you allowed to?
It was a company which was basically selling on late availabilities in chalets in the Alps. So I'd spent the previous year working in the Alps, recognised that at that point there was underutilization of particularly private chalets and stuff. And so we ran for a couple of years, 2-3 years, where we were basically selling on, taking a margin for selling on people's availability. And it was really interesting because people then say to me, well, you know, didn't you sell it for a fortune like lastminute.com and things like that? And I was like, well, you come to realize that a good business is 5% inspiration and 95% perspiration. And it's not just about having a good idea, it's having good execution. And we were doing it on the side, myself and my friend, and it got to the point where we had to make a decision: do we commit fully or do we carry on the side? And given our relative positions in earning and what was happening with the business, we didn't take that decision to commit fully.
But it sounds like you started the wave of last minute holidays. Look how many there are now. So thanks to you for that. Cheers.
I can't claim I was the first person to do it, but it was good fun. You learn a lot. I mean, I was there when Google invented Google Ads. Well, it was Google AdWords then, and I remember, you know, using the first interface and thinking 10 cents a click. Oh, that's expensive. You know, how's that going to work out? And then look at it now, where we've got people spending hundreds on a click.
Yeah.
You know how the how it changes.
But I guess that entrepreneurial spirit within you was always there, and it's kept going, and it's come out again, hasn't it? With
Yeah, I think so. It's not been a conscious entrepreneurial spirit. I think it's been out of necessity from being a kid and having my own car washing round and whatever to where I am. I just saw it as natural, but I was never encouraged in that direction, and my parents weren't from a business background and things. So funny how it worked out.
Yeah, no, it worked out well.
What's your question, Rob?
Is it? Oh, sorry. I thought you did too.
Just
Yeah.
thinking about that.
Get back on track, yeah. Let's get back.
Yeah.
So the whole, and that leads on nicely, I guess, from obviously these 10-cent clicks going on to like hundreds of pounds clicks to the whole reason we're on this episode today, doesn't it?
Yeah, we're on an episode. So, marketing departments, we all know, are getting squeezed with budgets at the moment, and it's a big thing. So, what do you think the first steps businesses should consider, when they're planning their marketing budgets?
Yeah, I mean, you're right. It's been a particularly prevalent thing, budget compression. We've got, clients that are getting told their budget's either staying the same, which means a drop in real terms, or it's being cut. But, please deliver the same amount of leads, the same amount of revenue, or more revenue. So it's not abnormal. And unfortunately, there's not like a magic thing where you pull it out of the bag and go, oh, we've got this emergency channel where when you've got no money, you can get loads of business this way, because you should be doing the right things from the outset. But I think the question is, where do you start? And you've got to start with the data. You've got to start with the numbers. So it comes down to this effectiveness of impact. So you have to really track through where a decision you make equates to revenue. So this is, decide on channel, on budget, on campaigns, that kind of thing. Where does that end up in terms of the revenue? Because that's what we want. And I think what we do when we go into a new client, and if they're struggling around this kind of issue, it's to look at the systems and look at what they're doing, and maybe implement a system like HubSpot or Klaviyo or something, depending on their circumstance, which is allowing them to track those marketing decisions through to real revenue, but also not just necessarily one-off revenue, but looking at things like customer lifetime value, customer lifetime profit, because that's where the gold is. And when you understand what's driving the revenue and the revenue changes, then you can start looking and analysing those decisions you're making and where you're placing your budget.
Yeah.
Okay.
No.
So I guess that would work for a more mature company, I guess, who's got that data. How would, I guess, a company who hasn't quite done that yet, how do they kind of go about looking at which channels they should invest in to kind of make it more cost, find those cost-effective channels?
I mean, I think even if you're a relatively small business, you should be able to get data. I mean, you should be looking at things like Google Analytics. If you're running an e-commerce store, you should be looking at the analytics that you've got within the store platform, depending on what platform you're using. I mean, HubSpot allow people to use a set of free tools, and their starter tools are ridiculously cheap for the functionality you get. I mean, there's a big jump up from starter to pro, and a lot of people, they're like, oh, taken aback by it. But it's almost like there's a bit more than freemium offering there. But there's not really an excuse, even if you're a one-person organization, one-person business. If digital is a channel, or even if it's just part of your channels, you should be measuring. If you're not measuring, you're guessing, and guesswork doesn't usually yield the best results, not consistently anyway.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, totally agree. And like you've just kind of alluded to there, like if they don't have that marketing data yet, they've still got the sales data. They've still been operating a business, so they can look back, find those patterns, seasonality, what their best sellers, yada yada. There's tons of data in a business. So yeah, really good point.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is. And I also wonder about, we've talked on the show before about testing budgets, for trying different things. And
Yeah.
I don't know if you've come across like businesses who've kind of like quashed that now, because that's just, as you said when you answered the question, just concentrate on the things that get good return on investment and they're going to work. What's your kind of thoughts on that kind of testing element? The budgets
I think testing budgets are good, and we should probably make them compulsory in the marketing world, that you should have to have a testing budget. I think what actually is more important is being bold enough to not do things that don't make money, and actually look at the real costs of where you're spending money. So you need to think, if you do this test and it turns out that spending more money, let's just say broad terms, spending more money on organic delivers 3 times the return of spending the same amount of money on social media, do you just drop social media completely? Because a lot of people will do a test and then they'll go, oh yeah, so we put a little bit more over here. Well, if you're tight on budget and you've got something which is 3x more effective, just don't do any of that. I mean, that's the thing to do, and then reserve your testing budget to go and then find, actually, is the next thing that you should do more video, and you put some money into video and you see what the result is on that. And really it's about maximizing the outcomes from a particular channel. So there's the law of diminishing returns. So as you put more and more money into an area, its effectiveness will probably decline over time, depending on how big your budget is. So that's the point when you go, okay, well, we're spending the right amount here. Let's bring another channel up to the other element. But it seems to me that rather than testing and experimentation, we have a lot of the businesses that aren't doing so well. We have a lot of not being bold enough to say, we're just not going to do it.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And from that and looking at sort of business, I kind of wonder, like, should companies? I know a lot of companies are bringing the marketing all in house as opposed to using agencies, because they believe that might save them money.
Yeah.
And I don't know what your thoughts are on this. And do you actually think that agencies can be more cost effective for a business than having everything all in house to run a marketing department?
Yeah. I mean, and we've grown out of the proposition that it's not right to have all of your digital marketing skills in house if you're of a size. Basically, we think around below 15 people, 12 to 15 people in a marketing team, you can't cover all the bases. I'll get on to the reason why we feel like just the expertise you need model works in a minute. But if we just look at the broad sort of brush of in-house versus agency, on paper you look at it and you go, well, I get 8 hours a day for 20 and a bit days a month from an employee, but I pay per day for an agency. They seem to be a lot more expensive because they've got overheads, they've got margin to make it. Surely it's cheaper over here, but there's a thing where people don't really look at the real cost of that. So if you think about your in-house people, if you're a marketing team of say 3 or 4 people, and you're doing organic search, you're doing paid, you're doing social, you're doing content, you're maybe doing a bit of video. Those are all very different skill sets. Even if you look at the term SEO, right? You've got technical SEO, which is kind of technical by its nature and sort of more code and science and getting into the nuts and bolts. Then you've got off-page sort of digital PR bit. Then you've also got the content bit and the content strategy, but the content also is about wordsmithing to create persuasion. Now, somebody who's good at technical SEO isn't necessarily going to be good at content-based SEO. So if you extend that analogy and you've got, like, you put in a digital marketing person or an SEO person, then you expect them to do a whole raft of different things. You're, by their nature, making them do things that they're not very good at because they've got a different skills and attribute set. So where we've built a really successful business and very long-term relationships with clients is by having 20 people with really deep specialist skills in different areas and then applying them in the amount that people want. And the reason why people don't have like a marketing automation specialist and they don't have an email specialist and they don't have a content strategist, is they can't afford them, because these jobs are maybe only a few hours a week individually, and collectively they try and get this unicorn that doesn't exist of a digital marketing person that does all. And it's interesting, we picked up a client recently, and the CEO of that business was saying they employed this really good digital marketing manager when it came to social, just knew how to push all the buttons really good. And then this same person went into their paid account and basically destroyed the profitability, just didn't know what they were doing. And the true cost of your marketing team is actually the performance they deliver. So if you're having people who aren't specialists, you're not getting the performance maybe. And you have to look and you have to think, well, okay, I'm paying £900,000 a day to an agency, but you know what? I know that they're putting a specialist on this, and I know they're delivering me the performance. And when we're working with clients, that a single deal can be hundreds of thousands of pounds, if not more. Getting a few extra deals in, it's neither here nor there. Whereas, short-term thinking says, oh well, we'll get another person. We're paying this agency for SEO. Oh, well, why don't we just get an SEO person in house? And there are some, I would be careful how I phrase this, but there's some people in house that really are not very good, but their bosses also don't know how to manage them. And this is the thing: if you're a marketing manager, and you do need a great coordinator, but if you're a marketing manager and you don't have specialist knowledge yourself in something like SEO or PPC or CRO, you could have someone in your team who's really not very good, and you actually don't know how to assess whether they're good or not, from some sort of superficial level. It can be quite difficult, because they can be telling you, oh, it's the market, it's this, it's that, and it becomes difficult. So yeah, I would say it looks cheap on the outside, but it's very expensive in the reality when you don't get the good results. Yeah. There is an interesting thing also about the skills, because when people think about what they're paying for an agency, they need to be thinking about they're paying for what they know, not just what they do. So you don't go to a lawyer and say, well, hold on, £500 an hour. You're just writing words. Anybody can write words. You're actually paying for all the knowledge that the words that are being written are the great things. And it seems sometimes people don't appreciate that so much in marketing, that it's what you know, not just what you do. And with an in-house team, it's very hard for the in-house team, if they're quite small, to skill up, because they haven't got a manager who they can learn from. They're not investing loads of time and effort into training programs and going out there. Whereas an agency has to do that. It has to be really investing in the people to make sure that they are the cream of the crop.
So that actually relates really well. There's like an age-old adage, isn't there, about someone in a nuclear power plant, and they've hired an engineer to come in and fix his all stopped working, and he just taps a pipe and it all gets going, and he charges him a fortune. Like, why did we pay you to tap the pipe? And it's like, it's not, my time, it's knowing where to hit the pipe kind of thing. So 100%. And I think, again, you've picked up on it. We could do a whole episode on how marketing is undervalued, and I think it's because people just don't really understand it so much. So yeah, some really excellent points there. But let's say people are in the situation then where they're not understood, the value is really hard, and they've just been told, look, your budgets are getting cut, is what it is, but I want the same output. What are your maybe top 3 tips, I guess, for them to deliver their marketing more effectively? Because that's what it has to be. It has to be us kind of stepping up in that case. Is there anything marketing leaders can do to stretch those budgets further?
Yeah, I mean, I would say you do need to understand cause and effect, not just correlation. So, as best you can, look at what you're doing, and see where there is the cause and effect. When it comes to budgets, it might take you a little bit longer, but think about the classic thing with marketing. What we're doing is we want to talk to the right people in the right place at the right time. Okay. So a lot of people's digital budgets are getting sucked up by paid media. And what that actually means is they've not thought of a strategy where they've earned the right to engage with the audience that they want to. So they're constantly having to pay to access the audience. So if you've got tight budgets, if you can actually create better content, go super niche on what your audience wants to understand, and get them to want to choose to interact with you and your brand, then you don't need to be spending that money on those paid budgets. You can use it more tactically, maybe to bring in things that will convert well. And the other thing, while I'm going to complain about paid, I mean, we've been Google partners for donkey's years, and obviously things like being on the Google Elevator program, and I was clearing out the cupboard the other day and found free Google t-shirts from 2015 and things like that. But the thing which strikes me at the moment is there's a lot of companies that are spending a lot of budget on brand terms when they own the organic results. And I think the driver for that, and it's not going to make myself very popular here, the driver for that is the in-house person, or potentially the paid specialist paid agency, and I use those little floating quotation marks, specialist paid agency, because they're just doing that. They're putting a lot of budget into paid, and they're putting it into brand terms, and they're going, wow, we need to do this, look, they convert really well, there's a really great ROI. But what they don't say is, and you would have got that business most likely anyway, because you own all those search results below that. And it disguises lack of effectiveness in the rest of the paid account. And nobody should be paying their agency a percentage of spend, because you are incentivizing them to not come up with alternatives to spending money on paid. You're incentivizing them just to go, the problem is you're not spending enough. And there are issues, I would say. There are now issues for very small budgets on paid because of the algorithms simply not having enough data. So when we talk to people and they might have really small budgets, they go, oh, we just want to spend a couple of $1,000 a month on this area of paid. And we're like, that's given your cost per click, you're just not going to give the algorithm sufficient data to optimize. So I think there's a lot of waste in that area, and people are doing it because they're hooked into it. If they cut their paid, they'd see sales go down, and they haven't got they haven't figured out the right strategy to do without it. And it's because organic and earning relationships with customers takes time, and it takes effort, and it takes skill.
So you kind of said this earlier. You said like people are looking very short term and short sightedly at things. So it's almost just a tip there is just kind of look at a longer term strategy perhaps, and look at these channels that are going to yield results kind of over time, rather than, as you say, these channels that are just short term and you throw money at. And I think it's difficult when people want those results, and it's like you plan financial years, isn't it? So it's almost just like saying, I need to put this time into this, because it's like planting a seed, isn't it? And then in a few years we'll have this organic revenue that's coming in that we don't really pay anything for. So I think
but it's also short term is also on the metrics people use. So people confuse engagement with persuasion. So people will go, oh yeah, this post had loads of likes and loads of comments, it's got really good engagement, this is brilliant. Well, not necessarily. When I was over at Web Summit in Lisbon, there was a really interesting talk, and this guy showed 2 iPhone adverts, showed them back to back 30-second ads, and it was like, okay, so ask the audience which one's better, and he showed the metrics for the engagement for both the ads, and one ad way better engagement, really good, stand out, And then he said, and here's the revenue numbers from the ads. And it was the other way round.
Yeah.
And people get confused about what they should be targeting. And we've seen this as well with even simple things like cost per click and cost per lead. So the reason why we connect people into systems like HubSpot to actually see end revenue is that we've seen campaigns for clients where you can have different approaches, and one approach gives you really good low cost per lead, and another one is much higher cost per lead. But the one with the higher cost per lead, all of those leads end up converting into SQL, sales qualified leads, and they get converted to good revenue. And the other leads wither because they weren't the right fit, they weren't the right people. But hey, you got the lead. So you need to be really careful about short-termism in terms of metrics, and always go, can I connect this to revenue at the end?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, I think it's a bigger question and probably a full podcast on reporting on agencies to
I think you've got your golden nugget tip already there, Rob.
I know, but I've had it both ways, in-house and agency. I'm sure like mostly everyone else, but it is that kind of thing of there's certain metrics that managing directors all around the board want and they're looking at, and you've got to, I suppose it's that educational piece to try and explain that it's not just they've had so many thousand likes or whatever.
And it's the context as well of numbers. It's like you can't look at something like bounce rate or engagement rate without actually qualifying what type of traffic is going in there or how the traffic might have changed. It is unfortunately complex, but I did a whole talk in the Baltic states on actually using data to increase profitability. I mean, it's the mine that I think a lot of marketeers are too scared to go down, but that's where there's a lot of gold.
And if you don't have these metrics and you don't have this data, and someone's trying to squeeze your budget, you've got absolutely nothing to push back with. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I think it's twofold really. It's yes, it can help you initially save this money, but it can also help you get bigger budgets and avoid this whole problem in the first place. So yeah, absolutely key to have the facilities to track those metrics and be tracking them.
Yeah.
So for the next question, and obviously as I mentioned at the beginning of the show, like everyone else, it's the subject of the moment, isn't it? AI. It's very interesting. It'd be interesting your take on how you feel it's impacting, marketing departments, and do you feel this could actually start saving money, and in terms of possibly not requiring as many sort of staff in the building, or how do you think its impact is going to happen?
Yeah, it's undoubtedly going to improve efficiency. I mean, we're already changing the ways we do things to make it more efficient here so we can deliver more to our clients. I mean, it's remarkable. We actually have a whole area now of our internal knowledge base, which has literally, I think, 180 tools so far already in there for the team. And we're a relatively small team, assessed and verified in terms of what they can do in different scenarios. And the landscape is literally exploding with AI tools. You've got two elements of the generative AI particularly going on. You've got the efficiency side, which is let's do things quicker and make things happen faster. And then you've got the performance side, which is by using AI, you can increase the performance using the data. And let's not forget that second part. We've been using machine learning for years on platforms like Google Ads. It's just been there in the background, whether that be in enhanced cost per click bidding or whether it be optimized for conversions. That was machine learning. That was AI in there doing the thing in the background. So we've been using things for a long time. But I think the generative AI is the big job changer. And you talk about, will people end up having headcount counts? And I think they will. I mean, we're evolving and should we say, adapting as an agency in terms of what we see as the roles. We're much more consultative, and we're thinking and helping people strategize more than doing, and we think that that's the trajectory in the future. And I think that good marketing teams will consist of people that embrace it but understand the limitations, and they can join the dots, because AI is very good to learn in a certain slither, you know, but it's understanding how to join everything up together, and that's where the skill of great marketeers will be. And knowing when not to use AI or when AI gets messed up. I mean, God, we've seen some things. I mean, we had a creative agency that works with one of our clients send through some graphics to use on a campaign, and we had to send them back and say, do you realise that when you got the AI to create these, that some of the people in the picture are missing arms?
Yeah. I mean, look, Rob mentioned at the start of the show he's making AI videos, so I'm really excited to see how messed up those are. But yeah, that's
they're a bit, yeah.
and I think, yeah, definitely what you've hinted at there is there's still limitations. I think that's the word, and it's yes, adopt it, yes, use it, you know, to make things a bit more efficient, but definitely realise the limitations of it, as you've so clearly pointed out there, and have someone sense checking it. Like, it's funny that even made it to you. So
and they put it, looked at everything, and then actually I had one with a woman sat on the desk, and I thought, oh, it's brilliant. Oddly enough, it's my daughter looked, and she went, why has that woman only got one leg? And I looked down and hadn't realised, because I thought, oh, it's amazing, it's done this kind of thing, but like just like the arm thing, or spelling's a big thing, it just can't not yet.
Well, I think the thing with AI, and I'm sure they'll get better at doing it, there's things about there's bias on what the tools have been trained on. So there's inherent bias if you've trained it on a subset and that kind of thing. And then also understanding the concept, because AI hasn't grown up in the real world like a human has, so it doesn't understand the sort of context of what it's doing. An example was my wife likes to play cricket at the weekend. She's in a women's cricket team, and on one of the AI tools, I asked it to create an image of a woman cricketer bowling. So first of all, it didn't understand the context. So although they were wearing cricket whites, the image had a bowling ball in it. So that was interesting. But then also the racial bias, it had a person of Asian background. All of the images that were produced were all Asian women. So it was making an assumption that a female cricketer was Asian. And that, I mean, these are the things that you've got to think about, because that might be something which springs up as obvious at the time, but there's going to be lots of subtle nuances, and you know, we've got to be really sensitive as a culture and as a society, that we don't, you know, get lost in what the computers think we should be doing and looking at.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. I'm going to stop you, Rob, because I know you'll have more questions on AI. Like, you're loving AI right now, but it's a different episode. This is all about
it's a different episode.
Saving money. I'm going to let you get your drumsticks out, Rob, and finish up with your golden nugget tip. We've had some really good tips there, Tim, already. But what we like to do at the end of every show is Rob just gets one final little golden nugget out of you, one key takeaway that everyone can take away from the podcast, and he's got a little drum roll introduction he does, which you get to rate out of 10 as well. And don't pull your punches, because it helps him develop.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So here
right.
you go.
Okay. I'm going to have a go. I don't know if you can see this, but I can never get it right.
Oh, you tried to add some flair. I don't know. Tim, what would you give that out of 10 as a drum roll?
I thought I'd extra for Tim.
I think that sounded like it was on a pile of magazines. Yeah. So I'm not sure you got the right acoustics.
No, it's a book.
He normally does the desk. Yeah,
I do the desk, but I don't know if the desks.
No, you don't get a do-over. No. Tim, what would you rate that?
It's. I think high scores for enthusiasm, and that's the polite way of saying that.
Sure. Like a 4. All right then.
Golden, but I have to live up to that enthusiasm from the drum roll with the tip now. So Rob's golden tip. What I would say is, change your mindset about the way you think about spending your marketing budget. Think about building marketing assets, not just expenses that will disappear.
I like that.
There we go.
Happy with your nugget, Rob?
I'm very happy with my nugget, yes. Thank you very much.
And then once you have all those assets, as you say, if someone comes to you and they're trying to squeeze them, it's like, well, look, it's not just an expense, it's an asset, and you've got all those metrics. And actually, thinking back throughout the whole episode, there's so many tips that equate back into that golden nugget as well. So
yeah,
I think for me,
it's
perfect.
I love the fact it was nice and concise, because that's what a nugget is, isn't it? Exactly.
Take it away. Go and action that if you're listening.
Sometimes it goes on. Yeah, people go forever, but it's like,
I'm not known for being concise, Rob. So you were lucky. You were lucky.
Perfect. Well, look, Tim, thanks so much for coming on. I know I've definitely got a load of value out of the show. I know people listening who are having their budget squeezed are going to get a lot of value out of that. But if they are still struggling and maybe they want to reach out and see more about you talking about this subject and maybe how they could work with you, how you can help, where can they find you?
All the usual places. So on LinkedIn, I'm Tim Butler 101 on LinkedIn. But there's a lot of good content on our own Digital Marketing Answered podcast, which is on YouTube and all the other usual platforms. But I would say a good place to start is just to come to innovationvisual.com and actually start engaging with some of the content that we've got there. But certainly reach out. Myself and the team love to hear from people and love to deal with challenges. And we've kind of got a bit of a positive reputation, certainly among some of the partner companies that we work with, in terms of we're the ones that can solve the really difficult digital marketing challenges. So if you've got something difficult, come knock on our door. We do love a challenge.
There you go.
Excellent.
So you know where to go. Next thing you're going to do, though, before that, is you're going to give us a 5-star rating. Then you're going to go check out Tim everywhere he's just mentioned online as well. So yeah, thanks very much for listening, Tim. Thanks again for coming on the show. And see you all next time.
Yeah, thanks for having me on.
Thanks. Now, bye.